6:30.
Yeah. Review of the meeting, minutes of the previous meeting. We have June, July, and August. The executive session was the August one. Oh, and September. So, we have to do one at a time, I guess? Okay. So everybody reviewed the June 12th meeting?
There's one minor typo, it's hardly
Okay.
even worth mentioning. The word "to" was changed to "do," and I can't remember just where, but it was close to where I noticed I made a motion. Let's see.
It was fine until later.
Yeah, just make a note that there's a "do" in there somewhere, where there should be a "to."
Okay.
And did we decide at the last meeting that even if someone, for example, myself in this state, didn't attend the meeting, but they read the minutes, that I can, like in this example, I can vote? I think didn't we decide that last time? We were discussing whether, if you didn't attend the meeting, could you vote on the minutes? And what was decided?
I believe what was decided is if you read and understood completely what the minutes were, that you could vote on them.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought too, okay.
Okay, someone want to make a motion to pass June's minutes?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay, now July. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes for July?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, okay. The executive session minute meetings in August. Any questions? Would someone make a motion to approve of the minutes for the executive session?
I'll make a motion that we get passed.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then September's 11th meeting. Any questions?
Oh, I have on page 2, the third paragraph from the bottom, the name of the person who spoke is Mr. Parady. It's not, it's P-A-R-A-D-E-E. You did it phonetically. P-A-R-A-D-E-E.
Same with Patricia.
Yep.
Okay. Someone make a motion to approve of the minutes for September?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes approved.
We have our work session now. The item A is a review of the proposed amended real estate transfer regulations. The regulations have been updated to reflect the sewer area waiver request for the upgrade of failed or failing septic systems, as well as various other updates relating to electronic filing, inspector registration requirements, and installing covers to within 6 inches of grade.
Does that require a vote?
I have a question.
Yeah, you can discuss them and I can explain what the changes are, or...
Maybe you want to do that first?
Sure.
Okay.
So you have a copy of the regulations, and they have a red strike through for things removed and red typing for things added. If you'd like, we can go through page by page. The first paragraph, it always had 3 9s and it should have been 3 0s, so I'm just correcting an error there. And in this second part where regulations, I changed the wording so it is clear that engineers and sanitarians do not have to take an exam Title V inspectors who are not an engineer or a sanitarian must take an exam in order to be able to do inspections in town. And that last year we adopted a requirement for inspectors to need a registration, and it's $125 per year registration fee. That was approved a year ago. I'm putting it in the regulations so it's all in one place. On page 2, under, in order to receive a passing rating, I added section 4, which says that access covers for all components must be within 6 inches of finished grade for systems installed after 1995, March 31st. 12 inches of finished grade for all systems installed prior to March 31st, 1995. And it lists which components need the covers. This has always been a policy of the town health department. Inspectors are already used to doing this. They sometimes won't do it as part of their inspection, and it'll get kicked back to us to have to write a letter saying it needs to be done because it's not a regulation. So I'm proposing to have you guys review it, and if you feel comfortable, put it in as a regulation.
Good idea.
And I deleted for guidance, inspectors should refer to this document that is more than 10 years old. It's been amended many times and it's not called this anymore, so I just took it out so we could have more leniency on inspector memos and guidance. And then under standards, I added that the forms shall be filed electronically. Again, this is something we chose to do about a year ago, and we're doing it. It's just a matter of having it in the regulations so we can hang our hat on it when they say, why? Why do I have to do this? And then section 3, I did change the timing of things a little bit, mostly because it was confusing. As long as the inspection's done within 2 years, which is what Title V says, the report's valid. And if we can receive the form within 30 days of the inspection rather than 7 days doesn't give the inspector long enough to complete the report and file it electronically. Some of them hold the check waiting for payment before they submit it, so giving 30 days does help with that. And then in here to make it clear to everyone that the Board of Health may take up to 30 days to review a complete report.
Well, I have a question on that. That's where my
Yes.
question comes in. So,
Mhm.
it's the inspector that has the 30 days, and then the Board of Health. And this is, you can tell me if we should discuss this later, but once we had all of the different forms in here, and that's only a month, I was wondering if it's, I believe the expectation that we voted on was that this body would vote on the forms that were submitted, the completed forms. And it's just seeing the number for 1 month, I'm wondering if that's the most expedient way for the homeowner and the board, and should it be considered for expediency that maybe the actual staff could be the reviewers of this, rather than waiting month by month, and especially if we don't have a quorum. So I don't know if it means we should change this, but we may want to discuss it at the end of this discussion. But I thought if we're going to have this many going into it, and there's going to be, this could end up being quite a bit of the bulk of our monthly meeting, is it something we should consider, is to have the staff do it? And I don't know that you'd have the staff manpower, so that means it's a whole, there's a number of things to consider. But whether you want to discuss it now or wait till the end of reviewing this.
Well, this is to do with an actual real estate transfer inspection report, not for a waiver request.
Okay.
So this is for the 99% of real estate transfers have to have an inspection done.
Mhm.
So that's what this section is for.
Okay.
So non-waiver ones
Okay. Oh,
will
okay.
have an inspection done. So whether you're in phase 2 or not in phase 2, you'll get your septic system inspected prior to real estate transfer. So that's what this section's for. And then once we get a report, usually we try to get it out within 2 to 3 weeks, a decision, whether we agree with the inspector or not.
Okay.
Giving a 30-day time frame. It does shorten it up from what we've been telling people. We've been saying 45 days, but for transfer purposes, if we can get things done within 30 days, it helps with the transfer.
So you're not really,
timeframe.
first of all, it's the inspector, and second of all, you're not dependent on us. I mean, obviously, we want a quorum, but it's not dependent on us to get it out in 30 days.
You guys don't look at these anyway.
Okay.
These are done by staff, so these are Title V inspection reports. The waivers, I
Yes.
think you should discuss whether or not you'd like staff to approve those
Okay,
or
so
not.
when we get to that, let's discuss that.
Sure.
Okay.
I did, in section 5, I changed from 14 to 30 days to go along with the paragraph above. Same thing with section 6, changed it to 30 days. And then I added a section that says, we will issue a letter of compliance within 30 days after receiving the inspection report. So that closes the loop. It means that just having a past inspection report from an inspector doesn't mean that we have approved it. They need that letter from us. And then the last part is the sewer area waiver, which I lifted from the one that you had previously approved. So if you want to read through that and make sure it's what you'd like in a proposed regulation.
Now the only people that have to have an escrow account are those with a failed system?
Right.
I see.
So right now, we do, the section above is 8, alternative to inspection.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when you have a cesspool or you know your system's failed. You don't want to put the money towards an inspection because you know that it's failed. And you agree to upgrade within 45 days. So that would be for non-sewer areas or phases that are farther out. And we have a form in our regulations already that covers that and it requires an escrow account. So I mirrored that language for the sewer area waiver.
It says it's been established, it doesn't say anything about whether it had been funded or not. Is that what you intended? You can just make an account, you don't have to put any money in it?
That's just the language that was in already from the section above, so if you'd like to change it, we can change it.
As long as everybody understands that what it means. If I were a homeowner, I'd say, okay, I've made an account, here it is. Nothing in it, but I made it.
So you've
Interesting
complied.
point, yeah.
And I suppose that's okay, because we're gonna issue the order to upgrade whether there's money in that account or not. It's to their
Right.
best interest to put money in it.
Yeah, and it probably doesn't pay any interest, so it's just as well not to have to put any money in.
Have you had problems with people who established an account but had no money and therefore they couldn't do it within the time frame?
We don't get into people's financials typically, so
Oh.
we get the form that's attached. It's page, it's after the page with the floor plan, so it's real estate transfer regulation. So we get a notarized statement signed by the buyer and the seller, and that's where we leave it. Because we don't hold
Yeah.
the escrow account.
How long, have you had any idea about how long it would take someone who requires it to get a low-interest loan from the county?
They get it, I've been told that once they apply, they get an approval within 24 hours.
Oh,
So they could put the
Just
loan
like the
money in,
TV ads.
Just like,
they could put the loan money in
Yeah,
the
they don't
account?
check, there's no,
Yeah.
like, credit,
there's no credit
there's no
background,
credit
no.
check.
No, yeah,
You're on that.
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
But you get the money.
The money doesn't go to the homeowner,
Money
and
goes
that's,
to the installer.
But does it go to the escrow account?
no, it goes directly to the engineer and the installer.
Huh. Well, then if you don't have an escrow account, but you've been approved by a loan, are you legal?
That would be your financial security, yeah.
so why would you have an escrow account if you don't need any money in it?
Aren't those two
Mm.
different things we're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about two different things. We're
Yeah.
talking about the alternative to inspection, so
Yeah.
upgrading right away. And we're talking about the sewer waiver. We can take the escrow account out because we don't check on it. Yeah.
Should we be, or should somebody be? Somebody in the town? I don't know.
Is it our business though?
No, well, what happened, well, now you're saying it's approved whether then no one's checking their finances, I guess not. If it wasn't, if that safety net wasn't in there, sure it would be, because then the town would be, maybe not responsible is not the right word, but stuck with people who need the work done and can't pay for it. So the good news is to hear that it's done within 24 hours, and we wouldn't have to know that. You're right.
I suppose
The
it,
town is never stuck because the town has the police powers to enforce it on whoever the title holder is.
Well, if they don't have money, what do you do? But now we know.
Well, if you're trying to,
You have the police powers to take over the house.
Oh, that's what you mean.
yeah, if you're trying to sell your house, there's a dozen expenses you have to incur, inspections and all that. And I would presume that would be added to the amount that is owed the Realtor,
Hmm.
rather than
Deducted from the sale.
deducted from the sale.
Okay,
And that money would be available from the buyer.
okay.
Is
So
that,
it's-
is that reasonable?
So all bases are covered then?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so we go back to where we left off here?
So we're leaving it.
I think if we leave it in, we're covered
hurt.
either way, yeah. Because if it is a sale, if it's for a sale, then they would put it in an escrow account, I would imagine. But if it's not a sale, they'd be getting a loan.
So it's covered both ways.
I think so,
Doesn't hurt.
yeah. We can talk about whether you want this inspection waiver form to be reviewed at staff level and then given to you like a permit list, like we do now.
Is that this one?
No, it's the
The
very
other one.
last page. It's the one that you had approved last month. So this would be for a sale of property that's in in the next phase, phase 2, and they have a cesspool or a failed system. And instead of upgrading it now, we are giving them a waiver to keep using that failed system until the sewer's available, and they would be connecting within 45 days of availability. It's pretty cut and dry. I have in here that they have to have an inspection report, so I'll know what the system looks like to begin with.
Yeah, because it's catastrophic.
Yeah,
And we need it done immediately.
right, if it's overflowing or collapsed or a hazard of any case, then we wouldn't approve the waiver.
So maybe the threshold would be that only the ones that you're not going to grant the waiver comes to us. The
Okay.
problem ones.
Okay,
How's that?
I'm comfortable with that. And anything that's,
That way you have some backup, where it's not just you,
mm,
if there's a real problem out there,
Mhm.
saying, you better go do it.
mhm,
It puts it more in a formal setting where we could bring the, people in front of us and tell them that we need compliance one way or the other.
mhm.
We could try it that way anyway. This goes back to my question I asked you earlier. So, you know, we don't have a big backup of forms because it's only can be done once a month
Mhm.
here. I think that's,
And can you think of any reason why you wouldn't grant a waiver?
No. I mean, not.
As long as it's,
I think, you know, there's gonna be a lot of people that fall into that category, and it's pretty cut and dry.
Mhm.
They need it, they don't need it. It's an urgent situation, not an emergency. I think that's how you
Mhm.
word it.
Mhm.
well, do we mandate that it be pumped or anything like that? If it's kind of failing but hasn't completely failed?
I would say yes if it calls for it. A lot of these cesspools are dry.
Right,
Yeah,
If the
Right.
system's marginal,
old house,
yeah,
you know, it's foolish to demand things that are just arbitrary.
yeah.
And I think that all can be done on an individual basis, unless you've got a problem. But that's just like everything.
Yeah.
Once you have a problem, you can say, listen, I'm not comfortable at this level.
Mhm. Okay.
So I could see giving them carte blanche to say, okay, there are waivers at the staff level.
yeah.
Okay. And if there's ever something that's marginal or I'm not comfortable with it, we'll come to you. And I'll keep a list every month to keep
Mhm.
you apprised of how many we're doing and what the situations are.
Kind of like you do for the restaurant inspections.
Yes.
Chart.
Good
Yeah.
to have some stats on it.
Hmm.
And then you
So
have to
it's
re-
tracked.
Right, and you have to report that anyway to somebody,
Yeah.
right? I would imagine.
We will start a spreadsheet, so we have,
So don't get lost.
so I don't get lost, exactly. The
Because you could file a waiver,
cruise on through.
say,
Yeah.
I'm gonna, and never,
Mhm.
and then it gets lost.
Was it in this,
And
oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Was it in this meeting or someplace else I was at, some other meeting, where, maybe it was selectmen, maybe, I don't know, saying that there was I think it was when we went with the selectmen, about the number of properties who are, not who, number of properties which are, I wouldn't say abandoned, but are, whatever, vacant, and they don't even know where the people are, and they're losing tax money, that kind of thing. Is this, how does that, and maybe they're dry, and maybe they're not dry, who knows, but is this covered in that? I think it was, maybe it was Larry, when we had that meeting with the, no, that was Raprano. Well, I don't know where I heard it, but it was somebody that was like one of the selectmen saying that there's a number of properties in town which probably people passed on, or they're extremely dire financial situation, and they can't, move on the property.
Mhm.
Now, is that covered in here, if they have to do some work or consideration of the, septic?
Are you talking about like a building permit? No, I wouldn't feel comfortable approving a building permit for an expansion or something if they have an existing waiver that is overdue, or an extension that's overdue.
but I think abandoned property or a property that nobody's living in, just, it's not being used. So it doesn't matter if
You
it's
don't have to
failed
worry, yeah.
until it's sold or
Well,
up for sale.
It does
Right.
matter if it's failed, because it could be polluting the neighborhood, but
Well,
I
think
guess there's
you
no,
know.
you wouldn't
Would
know
that be-
anyway.
Would that be used?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
It's dormant.
I see what you're saying.
Ours failed, but I know.
Yeah, yeah. So they don't fail when they're not being used? I guess that was more
No.
my concern.
Well, there's nobody flushing the toilets.
No, but they could be frozen pipes, right? Anyway, maybe that's out, I'm just wanted to see what would happen if that were the case. that, yes, they wouldn't fail from flushing, but they could fail from frozen pipes. You know, is that something, if that's, if it could be true, then we should cover something like that in here.
The water department pulls the meter to stop things, they pull the gas meters.
Oh, so you're well covered.
You-
Okay.
They kind of know what they're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
in, different departments. as
Okay,
far as
so we're covered
An
then.
abandoned property, and then it goes into the tax department to,
Come on.
um, they end up owning it and then start paying the taxes on
Yeah,
it, and then it goes to auction.
all right, so
Right.
basically we're set.
I think so,
Okay.
yeah, abandoned properties, they'll get a letter just like anybody if they
And
transfer.
then it
and
comes back
then-
to us as a title transfer.
Right, right.
And if the person's deceased, then like you say, it could be auctioned off.
Yep, and sometimes it takes time, it goes to a bank, or
Goes through
Um,
probate, goes through.
All right.
it
goes
could
what,
sit
goes
for a
through
year
heirs.
with nothing. But
Yeah,
then,
Then eventually it all goes to the state.
yeah,
There's no catch.
yeah. And if that's the case, then no one's living in it, and we're
It's
not,
It's not a danger.
it's not a public health issue,
Right.
yeah.
And I'm just looking at this
And
last,
there's not a lot of them,
No.
very few.
I'm looking at this last paragraph here about the notarized statement.
Yes,
Is, so this is just basically a number of letters from all parties involved that are just attached to this, along with the Title V inspection. Doesn't need to be that they're all on one form or anything.
no, when I review them, I'll make sure that all the parties that are involved understand the financial ramifications of this, and that the buyer will be the owner, and they will be responsible for the connection when
Okay,
when
when
it's
it happens.
available. Yeah.
Okay, looks good.
Okay.
Just correct my name and everything will be just fine.
Correct your name.
Oh, that's in the
Puts us
regular,
in good shape for
Okay,
yep.
Oh,
the
Okay.
people that.
oh, we
are out.
kept, I'm sorry. I kept,
that's my great uncle Robert, who's long gone.
all right, so what will happen now is, these have to get advertised for a public hearing, so the public can make input as well. So we'll have that done the next month or two.
So we would be there, would that be, if the public hearing be as part of the Board of Health? Okay.
I'm gonna you have to make a motion to schedule the public hearing,
Need a
You want-
motion to schedule
a public hearing for these regulations.
Oh, I see, yeah, I'll make a motion that we, schedule a public meeting for those changes.
Make a date now?
You can, if you'd like. I'm not going to be here for the November meeting. Katie's gonna be doing it, so if you'd like to do it in December, we could do that.
I'm not here for that meeting, so we have to make sure we have a quorum of everybody else.
Okay,
We can put it on December's,
right.
so we got.
Yeah, we can, yeah,
place on our
put it
floor.
on December, so
Close the
motion for that.
cameras and get back to the forum.
Thanks.
Sounds good. I'll make a motion that we put it in public hearing for a vote on
Second,
All
the
in
December
favor?
meeting.
aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll be on the December meeting. Okay,
Probably the nuts and bolts that would make a problem, I was gonna say,
I think so.
coming up first.
Mhm.
it's a good start.
Yeah, so we have a couple minutes before, new business.
You want to go over the schedule
Sure.
quickly? Meeting schedule?
So the 2019 schedule is pretty much just like the 2018 schedule, Tuesdays, second Tuesday of every month, except for May. It's the third Tuesday, I think, because of town meeting and elections.
Any conflicts for people that they know?
December, which is not on this calendar, but I'm gonna be away 3 weeks in December. No, excuse me, 2 weeks. And May 14th,
December of this year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'm gonna be away 3 weeks in May, so that's probably not gonna be any date unless it's the last week of May. So that's,
Well, by then we'll have a new person on the board.
oh, that's, oh, woohoo.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it? It was December, so December of 18,
Mm-hmm.
and then what other dates?
And basically the first 3 weeks of May.
Okay.
And I haven't had a chance yet to check, I did check with my colleague about my other commitment that I do 6 months a year, and she doesn't have the dates yet, and that's on a Tuesday. It's variable, it's not a predictable Tuesday is the problem. But as soon as I know, that I will.
Well, if there's,
So tentatively,
yeah, I mean,
what do you think?
This is
There's
good.
no,
Yeah.
there's no easy little change to make, so.
right.
So
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the dates.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
So the meeting minutes have, meeting times have passed.
Like gazelles.
Okay.
All right, so it's time for new business. First, we have a show cause hearing for Hillary Welsh, the occupant of 12 Pleasant Valley Road, to discuss noncompliance with an order issued June 2nd, 2018 regarding housing code violations, continued from September 11th meeting.
That's the famous boat full of trash, right?
Yes.
Did you
Okay.
sign in, sir? Did you sign in here?
So, thank you. So I've been twice this month. The first time I spoke with the occupant's mother who was watching her son. She's an infant son. And was given the same story of the trash was there when they moved in a year ago. They've tried to clean it up a little bit, but they don't have a trailer hitch to attach the boat. So nothing had changed. I took Larry Ballantyne's advice and talked to the Big Fix. That was the program that came to town last month. They did not qualify because it isn't an owner-occupied dwelling, so they
Oh.
didn't qualify. They did try to help them out. They said that they could take the boat off the property but couldn't pay the tipping fees at the transfer station, and the people weren't cooperative, so. I went again today and spoke with the cousin of the tenant, and he took my card and information, and I did get the same story of this trash has been there for over a year. The previous occupant left it there, which was another family member. This was a family household. The owner had passed away, and now there's a new owner. And Hillary, the legal occupant, did call me tonight. It's the first time I've spoken to her, which was a big plus. The deal is that she's being evicted. She goes to court on Thursday.
Because of this?
No.
Okay.
Next month, you're going to see the owners of this property because they have a failed septic system that they have not dealt
Gets
with.
better and good.
So this new owner who took over the property sometime in July, when the previous owner had passed away, has not addressed many of the tenants' issues there. So they had, the owner had issued a notice to quit, which is an eviction notice to the tenant, and their first court hearing is on Thursday. So I'm hesitant to put another criminal complaint onto the occupant, knowing that it wasn't her trash to begin with. However, I don't know how to proceed because there is a boat full of trash. I could attempt going through the owner, but I've issued her a letter of violation for the septic system and haven't heard a word either, so.
Is there a charitable group in town? I don't know, I'm trying to think now, would it be of different types? I can't immediately think of one that would take on the towing of it and the fee, the tipping fee. like, I'm just trying to think of a philanthropic group that might take this on as a charity, and that would be that issue settled.
Mm.
And then it would be the sewer, which in all intents and purposes may be the more major issue here.
Mhm.
I'd like to see it go right to the person that legally owns title to the house.
Owns the
Say
house.
again?
Person that owns the house,
Yeah,
write them a letter and ask them to give them 2 weeks to get rid of the boat. Say it's not, because it comes under the owner of the property. If the tenant says it's not my boat, then it's the property owner's boat,
Mhm.
because it's not nobody's. It
Mhm.
was left by a previous person.
Right.
Dead.
So if it's a car, if it's $1 million, the guy that buys the house buys the contents and all of the problems that go
Mhm.
along with it. This is a problem owned by the new owner,
Okay.
and that's where the rubber meets the road. He should, it's another line item. The septic's a problem,
Mm.
the boat's a problem, anything in the yard it's all his problem, it's not the tenant.
And he
If
bought
the
it
tenant
knowing
says,
this.
it's not my boat, if you know,
Mm.
the boat's worthless,
Mm.
but it's a different thing instead, it's my boat, and I'll get the trash out of it,
Mhm.
I'm renting the property. The
Okay.
tenant moved in there, boat was there prior to her moving there, and the
Mhm.
boat is owned by the landlord.
The
Okay.
Landlord's the guy that
the only
gets rid of the
question,
boat.
I agree with you, except where was inspectors when this title was transferred, when the new owner's only been there since July? So when that was
Inspectors
bought.
of what?
Huh?
Inspectors of what?
I don't know, when the property was bought, who, I don't know if it's the realtor or the inspector or whatever, should have somehow reported or,
No, I mean, you can.
no, that doesn't happen?
You don't need a realtor to buy a piece of property. Buy
I'm not
the
saying buy, I'm
Barnstable-
just saying, when the
Barnstable
pro-
County, you accept title to the property out of Barnstable, so it's all linked to the.
somehow there should, in my mind, would have been good if there had been conditions laid on it then, before the guy bought it, so that he could,
was it a purchase and sale, or
I'm
was
sure he
it?
bought it at a very discounted price with
Oh.
all its problems and said, I'll take it just the way it is. Here's $1. Or
Oh.
or some form that transfer the title. And the heirs,
were happy
To
to
him.
get rid, yeah,
whoever
Mhm.
the two parties are, the bottom line is,
his problem.
it's junk, and he's got a tenant in there, that's his issue, the tenant. But if this is a public health nuisance, which it is to the neighbors,
Yeah.
they shouldn't have that. It's full of garbage.
Mhm.
Very old.
Owner of the house
All right.
with a
Sounds good.
chop. All he has to do is make one phone call to the guy,
Yeah.
and it's gone. And the neighborhood doesn't have rats and mice and everything like that. We'll discuss it. Why
Yeah.
should the guy next door put up with that?
Yeah.
Because we can't figure out who owns the property. We know who owns the property.
Mhm.
Comes with the responsibility of owning property.
When did the
Okay.
system fail? Was that at the transfer?
Well, the system failed. We received a complaint from the tenant that the septic system was running down the road. This was back in August. And we looked back and saw that the property changed hands,
Okay, so it's
and issued them an
Yeah.
order to have it
Yeah.
inspected,
Changed hands
changed hands without a Title V, right,
That's so he's in
Right,
violation.
he's in
of
violation.
He's a new septic system.
right,
Okay,
Wow.
sounds good.
right.
So,
Okay.
Hopefully it settles it.
He's got the problems.
Yeah,
Okay.
my concern about this is what's going to happen when you give an ultimatum to the owner to move the boat? And the trailer has to be registered, and the trailer has to be insured.
They can tow it onto a flatbed.
And the trailer,
They can tow the whole boat and everything onto
yeah,
a
but
flatbed.
then what are they gonna do with it?
They take it to the dump.
Well, that's gonna cost them a lot of money, and I'll bet you they don't
Couple
have it.
$100, tops.
Yeah, I know, but I bet they don't have the money, so what they're gonna do, and this is my concern, being on the Conservation Commission, is they're gonna tow it to Bell's Neck and leave it in the parking area.
That's not really realistic.
Oh, they do it all the
concern.
time.
But I mean, that's a criminal offense. How
Of
can we
course,
police
but
that?
you have to catch them at it. No,
Well, we
I'm
have
just-
pictures of the boat,
I'm just concerned
so-
about it.
Well, let's do the letter first and then take it from there. If they don't do it,
Do we need a vote on this or no?
You should, because it's a show cause hearing, so yeah, you should
Okay.
vote on something.
so I'll make a motion that we go with the recommendation of writing a letter to the current owner, give them the 2 weeks' notice, and pray that it's concluded.
2-week notice to remove the boat
Boat.
and trash.
The boat
And then
and all of the trash around
Right.
the exterior of the house.
And do we need to say anything about the sewer at this
The
point
boat.
too?
Separate order.
Okay,
Separate, yeah.
okay,
Clean it up.
yeah,
I'm not gonna clean it up if no one asks it to.
yeah, right.
Second,
Second,
all in favor?
Aye.
Passed.
Moving on, we have a hearing for Kurtzman, 108 Clearwater Drive. You want to come up? To reconsider an order of conditions granted February 26, 1997. There is to be no increase in square footage to the dwelling beyond that as shown on the plan dated January 26, 1997. Proposal is to create a finished family room space in the existing walkout basement.
I just want to say first that I missed the note on the agenda that I am hard of hearing. I wear hearing aids. I didn't let anyone know that prior to the meeting, so bear with me, but it should be okay. It seems it's a pretty closed, small room, so it shouldn't be much of an issue.
I open the hearing.
Do you want to explain
Yeah,
your
you have the
application?
plan, yeah.
Mhm.
The plan is basically exactly how it is laid out in the plan. It's a wide open room. And basically, we're gonna be finishing the walls, ceiling, and floor.
And what are you putting down there?
I'm sorry,
What are you going to put?
for the floor or for the walls?
Are you going to put any bathroom or anything?
Yeah, there is a bathroom proposed down there as well.
A full bath?
Yes.
Any comments from the public? Okay. I now will close the hearing and have a board discussion.
I'm curious to know what the rules are about a bathroom that has no additional living space, no additional room for additional occupants of the house. Is there any consideration that that bathroom might be less well-used than if they had another occupant?
There isn't a regulation on how many bathrooms you can have. It's dictated by the number of bedrooms.
Oh.
So if you have a 2-bedroom house, say you have 4 people living there, and you have 10 bathrooms, you're still only gonna have 4 people using the bathroom. If you have a 2-bedroom house with 4 people living in it and you have 1 bathroom, it's still getting flushed for just those 4 people. So you can have as many bathrooms as
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah, I see, but my question is, when a bathroom is in a family room rather than in a bedroom, is there any accommodation for the fact that there's no additional residents in the home?
I don't understand. Are you saying, could this be construed as a bedroom?
This house is approved for, what was it, 4 bedrooms or
4,
something?
yes.
And now it's 4 bedrooms and a family room. And they've added an additional bathroom. Would that imply that the people from the 4 bedrooms would be using the downstairs bathroom as well as the upstairs? But no additional persons would be using it? Is that a reasonable assumption?
Yes.
So the actual flow of wastewater is not likely to change. Is that fair to say?
That is the theory, yes.
Well, is it the actual, have you found it to be the case?
I've seen both. I've seen families that need an extra family room with an extra bathroom. There's 3 girls living on one floor sharing a bathroom, and they
Yeah.
need more space. I've also seen walkout basements turn into accessory apartments. So I've seen both
Without authority?
without authority, right,
Yeah, it turns into a 5-bedroom house.
essentially.
Is this a full bath or a half bath?
Sorry?
Full or half bath?
Full bath, yeah.
Full bath.
It's on the pond, and that more or less was because it's a walkout basement. So it's convenience for people that are coming up from the pond, using the beach at the pond to walk up the stairs from the pond area, come in through the basement, change, shower.
Yeah. So this is a seasonal use, you'd think, pretty much?
It is a second home for the homeowner, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it is seasonal, correct.
I was negligent to ask the recommendation of the,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I'm interested in that, because I want to see how we can prevent that becoming
The
a
health
fifth bedroom.
director.
okay. So history on the property, it was upgraded in 1997, and it resulted in the need for setback variances from the top of the bank of the pond to the septic system, as well as from the septic system to the property line. The system is designed for 4 bedrooms, and it does also lie within a Zone 2, which means it's restricted to the number of bedrooms as it is. It was inspected in April of 2018 with passing results. They are proposing to keep the number of bedrooms the same at 4, and they're not proposing to increase any variances that they currently have. I recommend approval of the reconsideration with the conditions that it's restricted to 4 bedrooms, that there's no further increase in habitable space without further review by the Board of Health, and that the floor plan and the approval need to be recorded at the Registry of Deeds to run with the property.
well, if I may, I disagree with that. I don't think there should be a full bathroom in a area where it could very easily be turned into a bedroom. I think it should be a toilet and a sink and no shower, because I think you're just making it more and more possible for whoever is staying there downstairs as an extra bedroom. And I don't know if you agree with that or not, but that's my
Would
opinion.
it be possible to have legally and practically an outdoor shower?
Legally,
Legally, it's fine. Is there an outdoor shower at present?
there is not one, no, at the time that the property doesn't have one. So,
What I was getting at was that adds to the floor plan. You know, if you have a shower stall, right? And that would require a building permit?
Mhm.
Well, this whole thing is gonna require a building permit.
Right, but I mean, that would violate the order of, was it 1997, if they build out, right? As opposed to having an
That's not
indoor
happening.
shower.
They're requesting to build all of this, the family room, the living space, and the bathroom.
Yeah.
So all of that requires your approval.
Oh, are you the contractor?
so it's basically, from what I gathered from what was done, the order of conditions in 97 was no increase on the square footage of the property based on variances on the septic system that needed to be put in. And, you know, I think it's a little vague as to the explanation of the square footage based on a project that was done because of variances. That, to me, automatically thinks of increasing footprints of the property because of all the restrictions on the setbacks. So this square footage was already existing in that place. It just wasn't finished square footage. There's no interpretation on the order of conditions that says that it's finished square footage or no finished square footage, or footprint, non-footprint. It's kind of left up to interpretation as to the square footage, just left as that.
When
So-
the variance were granted, it wasn't granted with the caveat that it's no increase in habitable space. It was just, okay.
But I wasn't comfortable with approving that at the staff level, so that's why it's here.
Yeah. And I agree with Pam in that, since they're doing more than just the downstairs, I think having a toilet and a sink precludes, especially since it's in a zone 2, so that's really my main concern. Since it's in a zone 2, I think there should be no possibility that it becomes a nanny room or somebody for visitors' bedroom, that we suggest that we approve everything except the request that it be a full bathroom, but just have the sink and a toilet.
Now, that makes sense, although, you know, the logical thought would be that the effluent would be mostly water from a shower, which is not terribly polluted, as opposed to water from a toilet. I don't know if that's of any importance legally, but you know, if people are just showering when they come up from swimming, it's going to be a minuscule amount of.
But is it going to be?
Say again?
That's what they're saying, but it's the potential
Uh-huh.
that if,
When this house gets sold and the next owner comes in,
All they have to do is lock the door, and this is a full apartment downstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a full bathroom.
And there's no way that we could word that in the permit? That we could say that using that,
No, it can't.
using that as a residence would violate the amendment, the agreement with the owner?
We don't police it that way.
No.
Yeah.
And I
okay.
think it's been a long time since you've had teenagers. They get in there and they, it may not be polluting, but they don't take quick showers like us old geezers. They're in there a long time, so I think it's in a zone 2. That's why I'm more concerned.
Yeah, okay. And it's near a wetland, that's
Yeah, right.
most important. Okay, I'd go on with that.
Would they consider coming back to us and pull the shower out? Would you go to your client and say, listen, it's not going well? Would you consider, you know, taking that indoor shower?
I would, yeah, I mean, obviously, if that's what's gonna make it or not make it,
It
then
would
I
make
would
it a
say,
lot
yeah.
easier to say sure to them, because right now,
But
to me,
like I said before, in the reasoning for the shower was that was like the
I got
the most use was because that's what people are gonna be going down and through the house,
I think it's an
swimming in the
outdoor
pond,
shower.
Put
coming
an outdoor
back out,
shower in.
and that type of thing, so,
Yeah, I mean, an
So-
outdoor shower is the same thing.
yeah,
If it's just that,
yeah,
people showering when they come off the beach,
yeah,
That's-
no, I agree.
not a problem. But this looks like an apartment. All it needs is, you know, a trip to Costco, and it's an apartment.
Yeah,
It's a full apartment with a full
Right.
shower and everything, and it's a 5th bedroom. And that's what we're
I
hedging
mean,
on.
it's a big open space, so, I mean,
Right.
that's, you know, that's what my argument, I could see more if it was partitioned off in certain areas, then it would more than likely be considered a bedroom. But to me, there's no legal way that, not only from a septic, there's so many other issues that it would not be able to be a legal bedroom, not
We're
just
worried
from a
about
Board of
legal
Health
bedroom.
standpoint.
Yeah, we're worried about an illegal.
So that, yeah, so
An
that's,
illegal
so
apartment.
that's why I would say that, you know, why wouldn't we be allowed to do a family room based on what my client wants to, you know, finish it as is one
Well,
big extra
typically,
square.
what we're doing is we're granting something like this with no increase in habitable space, because we come across this every day.
Mhm.
Not every day in this level, but every meeting. It's easy to say yes to it. It looks like, you know, it could certainly be
and it's a zone 2, I mean, that's.
another whole bedroom.
Okay.
Just throw a bed down there and it's a bedroom.
Yeah,
All
I mean,
couches.
yeah, but I mean, you could say that about, you know, every house on Cape Cod, really, at that point. That's why I kinda, it's like,
That's why
you know,
that's why we cap
what's that?
That's why we cap the increase in habitable space.
Right. But that's where I was saying on the deed that was, or on the order of conditions, it never specified habitable space on that deed. So that was why it was one of my concerns on the whole thing. Why we got to this point was because it wasn't specified as habitable space. And I took that as the understanding, because of it was done in a point of variances being done on the property because of the septic, that it meant square footage, meaning additions and building out from the footprint, not the square footage that was actually there.
I think
But I
that must
do
have been an oversight.
What's that?
I would think that that must have been an oversight in that day and time, which it isn't anymore. And I agree. I think you have 3 out of 4 people here who would not approve it tonight unless something changes. So I like,
Well, that's what I said, that if it's the shower, then that's fine, that then we can negate the shower, do an outdoor shower, and I'll convince my client that that's the way we have to do that.
yeah,
And that that's gonna make you guys comfortable and happy, then that's not a
and they
problem.
can go for the outdoor shower.
Would you like that?
Yeah,
Get rid of the shower.
yes,
Yeah.
so they have to come back, right?
You can approve it with, that's,
The
the, you know,
conditions?
with the
Yeah,
condition
so
that
they'll
I,
get back, yeah.
yeah, they don't have to come back, but if
Okay.
they can
Yeah, they
revise
can-
the plan and I'll
Yeah.
approve it.
It's a lot easier.
So the conditions would be,
Do I hear a motion? Frank, do you want to give a motion about?
Yeah, we would approve the existing proposed layout of these plans, minus the shower stall as you presented.
okay.
And should we say maybe more strongly, since it was misinterpreted, that at the, how would we say this, that it has to be limited to the 4 bedrooms? That's probably covers ourselves
Yeah,
better if we say
right.
that in addition to what you just said.
The house is
Mhm.
deeded with a 4-bedroom septic, no increase in habitable space
Yeah,
after this.
yeah, good.
Okay.
The next person can come along.
Right,
Yeah.
be
Since
confused.
That's an open thing, yeah.
So I'll second your motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Is that okay then?
Do you have green cards from the
What?
certified mail cards? That they should have sent back green cards. Do you have
Sent
them?
back.
Yeah,
I didn't get anything sent back.
okay. When you sent these, there was another green card that had a return receipt on it. This is all they gave you guys?
That's all I get, yeah, from the post office in Harwich, that's what,
Okay.
it was a thing, they stuck the other part of the envelope.
You haven't gotten any of those back?
No.
Okay. All right, we'll track them. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, good luck.
Okay. Next, we have an upgrade waiver request for 27 Victoria Road, Whittemore, to consider a request to retain a cesspool system serving a dwelling in the Phase 3 sewer service area. Proposal to connect to municipal sewer within 45 days of availability.
This isn't a hearing, right?
This is. Mhm.
Okay. I'll open the hearing. Did you sign in?
I did.
And could you tell us your names, please?
David Whittemore?
Mm-hmm.
And Deal Whittemore.
Okay, thank you.
So we have about a month ago, the Whittemores came to me and asked about the waiver situation. And I had explained that we were talking about them here at the board level for doing waivers for failed or failing septic systems that were up for real estate transfer. And we met a couple of times, and the Whittemores had their system inspected, and they do have 3 cesspools, a main cesspool that go out to 2 leaching pits. It passed the Title V inspection because the system's still functioning, not a problem with groundwater. Structurally, they're sound. They were actually all dry, in good condition. So when we received the application, we discovered that they're actually in Phase 3 and not Phase 2 as I had originally thought. So instead of this being the guinea pig case for phase two, it's going to be a little different because they're actually just outside of phase two and they're in phase three. So phase three of the comprehensive wastewater management plan has not yet been approved at annual town meeting for funding yet. If all goes well, the plan is approval at town meeting in 2021, in May of 2021 for funding. And then the design drawings are done by the engineering company, most likely CDM Smith. They're doing the ones for phase two. And those drawings are completed in October of 2021. We go to the state for funding. And then in the spring of 2022, that is when the bids go out for construction in the ground of the mains, which is what we're going through with phase two this coming spring. And again, the construction phase is a little smaller in phase three than it is in phase two, so it probably won't take a full 2 years to construct the sewer mains. But the plan is sewer main construction in 2022 to 2024. So sometime between 2022 and 2024, this property will be eligible to hook up to that sewer main, latest 2025. My hesitation is that phase three funding hasn't been approved yet. I think the ball has been rolling now down the road here in Harwich for quite a while, and everyone understands that this does need to happen. So phase funding, I'm confident will happen, but it just hasn't yet. So ramifications, if it doesn't go through, we could be looking at a cesspool system that is still in use in 5 years from now, when it could have been upgraded already. And then in 5 years, we're gonna be in the same situation of the funding will go before the town year after year until it passes, which who knows how long it could be. So, excuse me. I do want you to consider the waiver request, because putting in a new Title V system now is costly, and you'll most likely see it as an extension request in the future.
They're definitely on the list of phase three.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the one thing that we have to hang our hat on.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's in a.
And it's an operating system right now.
Yes.
Not failed.
Failed. The only failure criteria is that it's a cesspool system, which aren't legal in Harwich.
Are you selling the property?
Yes,
Well, that's why.
that's the whole purpose of
Yeah.
the waiver.
Okay,
We have a buyer at this point.
yeah.
If they weren't selling, they could continue on with a cesspool system.
Everybody's gonna be in the same boat.
Right.
And I think when we originally talked about this, we said, you know, the first and foremost would be with an operating system. Maybe not being Title V, but operating. And they've had this inspected?
Yes, in April of this year. And I'm sorry, September, just last month. And the 2 pits were dry, no sign of failure. Groundwater is 30 feet separation, so there's no contamination issue here.
Yeah.
They're not the most environmentally friendly systems, however, they're not near any wetlands, and they are very far from groundwater. But they are in a zone 2, and they currently have 2 bedrooms, and they're restricted to 2 bedrooms. And should you approve the waiver, I would suggest that no alteration permits would be allowed until connection to the sewer is made. So when the new buyers buy it, they're not going to renovate the house using a cesspool system, that they would have to wait until,
Wow. So is that anything?
I don't
for the
know.
house?
That would be something you'd have to discuss. I would want to see them expand to the 2nd floor and put on a new room, even if it's not a bedroom, using a cesspool system.
So what's your recommendation? Do you have a recommendation on this? You gonna do that like regular hearing things?
I don't know if you can keep it open, I think.
Sorry.
No, I didn't know if
Say
you had a,
again?
I was wondering if Megan had a recommendation like we do when we have other regular cases.
I have it in your packet under the site summary, so I do recommend approval of the waiver with the conditions of it being restricted to 2 bedrooms, that no permits be approved for alterations or expansions to the dwelling until connection to the sewer has been made, and that the connection to the sewer is required within 45 days of availability. If the system becomes a public or environmental hazard, it must be remedied immediately. And then if the funding does not go through in May of 2021, which is when it's scheduled to, that this return to the board in June of 2021 for reconsideration at that time to figure out what the plan is moving forward.
So how do you, the Whittemores are being nice and honest and coming to us, and they're gonna sell it and move, how do we ensure that the people who buy it are gonna honor what the Whittemores signed off on? And do they have to co-sign something in the waiver that says that they will abide by the guidelines that you just gave?
They have signed the waiver form.
Mhm.
They haven't signed anything that I have said or any recommendations because they're not official yet, but they would be recorded at the Registry of Deeds to run with the property. So even if it sells again in the meantime, this condition would always run with the property.
No.
So whenever a lawyer or realtor researches the property, this would come up.
So they'll know that they can't do the renovations and all that, what you just said? So really, there's no renovations that can be done
This
here?
is gonna set precedent.
Right.
I know.
So
Right here.
at least
Now.
5 years, there's no renovation that can be done to this house?
Unless they put a Title V system in,
Yeah.
Oh,
Which could be done and then abandoned.
So,
when-
yeah, it's sort of like, what, is it worth it to them to not upgrade the septic system now if it means they can't finish the second floor of the house? Because right now, it's a 2-bedroom cape with an expandable attic that hasn't been built.
so whose responsibility is that? Is that theirs or the buyer?
Be the buyers.
Buyers? Well, this is interesting.
Yeah, guinea pig case.
I'm sure the buyer would sign something stating that he would agree to
Oh,
those conditions.
that's
No
good.
problem, yeah.
Mm.
It's a single couple, no kids.
You would be signing that when he signed the deed.
Right, exactly.
Right.
We don't need to see it.
And we
don't
can
need to
talk
see the
about that,
buyer,
that one recommendation of no permits for alterations or expansions. We can talk about that, and if they want to redo the bathroom, is that something we want to squash, or is it just expansion in square footage?
But I think it's an expansion
Mhm.
in square footage and habitable space.
So
They
basic
wanna double
renov,
the size of the house.
if they need a new roof,
It's new roof already.
okay,
Yeah.
good.
But that's good to clarify, it, so everybody's, they get credit for what they did. and-
Everybody's gonna want this,
Hmm.
whether it's
I
an
know.
8-bedroom house with $40,000 or $50,000 septic.
And
or
are
this-
you- yeah.
This little 2-bedroom house with a $7,000 system.
And are you ready to do that for phase 3? That's the big question. Phase 2, it's kind of a no-brainer, but the phase 3.
Because phase 2 is.
happening.
Is happening now.
Yeah.
That would be the adjacent phase. And then if the funding does not go through,
Then we relook at
we
Jimmy.
call the new owner in and all of a sudden, make them put a system in.
Yikes.
You fail the system that they own based on a vote.
But would you, knowing that it's gonna come up again in a year for funding? Because if this gets shot down, I'm guessing it'll just keep coming up until it passes, right? Or is that not how?
No.
Exactly.
Uh,
It's gonna pass. It has to pass because of the effect. Eventually, we have to
Environmental.
be sewered
Right,
based on federal regulation.
Right. Do we say anything on the letter to that effect?
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to grant it because it's a real expense to these people if it's inevitable and it's operating. I mean, if it's not operating, it's a whole different ballgame. It's gotta be done.
Mhm.
And that
But I
makes-
think we need to work on the language
Right.
a little bit.
That makes sense to me too, because this is a fully functioning septic system that has a long track record. And the chances of its failing in the next year or 2 or 3 would be low, in my opinion. And for that reason, I don't think it would be a major risk for us for them to wait until they get a sewer hookup.
Do you live there full-time?
no,
Are they? Do you know?
Pardon?
Do you know, are they gonna live there full-time?
no, I believe this is a summer
Yeah.
Yeah,
type home.
so it's the same
They live
conditions.
in, I
You're
think,
good.
Sharon, Mass.
Mm. So the conditions shouldn't dramatically change from one family to the next.
Right.
And it's not a single cesspool either, so it does have a main
Yeah.
cesspool acting as a tank, and it goes out to 2 overflow pits. So it's fairly close to Title V, just not quite.
I'm with Frank. I tend to want to approve this with very specific language so that since you've done what you needed to do, and the new people are clear what they need to do or not do in the 5 years that we are of the opinion, I don't know how you say this, that this needs to be done because we are mandated by law that we have to be sewered, and that if something changes, like their septic fails or something, that they would need to come back and rediscuss this with the Board of Health or something, just so they're clear that if something happens, that they would want to talk with them again and help them through it.
Do you think there's any other wording?
A letter, I guess.
No, I think it can be pretty straightforward under what you suggested, is that we give them, we give them the waiver, we tie it to a functioning system, we tie it to the phase 3 funding, that has to come back for review, so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle. You
Yeah.
could literally say, we could transfer again, and if it doesn't come back on the deed, it never gets done. There's no, you're not gonna catch any of them, right?
Well, we do check the paper every week for real estate transfers, and we go through and.
No, but I mean, like, automatically, we'd have a tether on.
We would, yes, it would automatically,
I'm
because it would be at the
thinking
registry.
These folks are just the first in line of everybody, basically, that's got a title, that's got an upgrade.
Right.
And it's not like, I mean, we could get some raw data on how many people in 3 have Title V already, and then it's a question of whether or not they've been maintained. But I like the fact that we could tie it to operating, and then tie it to funding, just so it doesn't go off the reservation.
And the more people we have buying into sewer phase 3, the more votes for phase 3 will go through and,
I just don't
you know what I mean?
see burdening them
Yeah.
with thousands of dollars when they have something that works,
Mhm.
because the town is rolling out the sewer system.
Sounds
And
logical.
the buyer knows what he's getting. It would be on them to
Mhm.
disclose that, not us.
I've forwarded all the information on the waiver and everything else, so he's very aware of what we're going through.
Yeah,
And he knows we're here tonight for that.
yeah. And I don't mean to mischaracterize that we're trying to shuffle it. What I'm trying to do is just be consistent, like there's gonna be, we're gonna
Yeah.
be in the same spot with another 2 people.
Right.
And we wanna be able to do for them what we do for you.
Mhm.
And that's, I've been on the side of, it's all part of the big picture, not spending money that on things that are working.
Yeah, and should the phasing change and this not be in phase 3 when if they redo a map or something in the next 5 years, and all of a sudden phase 3 is gonna happen in South Harwich instead of East Harwich, then we'll relook at things, I think. But this is the plan we're going forward with.
Yeah, I think it makes absolute,
Yeah.
I think it's common sense that we're heading to a better system, to have a working system, and that the new buyer he gets the cards he's dealt. We don't know what they are. We couldn't predict the future on what the possibilities are. But as long as it's working,
Mhm.
we're covered.
Mhm.
I'm going to close the hearing.
Okay, yeah. I think not
We're still
overthinking,
discussing.
not overthinking it too much is the way to go, because it should make it should make sense in the first pass and not be too complicated. It works. They're in, it's not phase 4. It's not 20 years out. It's 5 years out.
Mhm.
And I think that might be the precedent that we set, is we're looking at the adjacent phase to the phase we're in, where we could have some discretion. I think if it were in the latter,
Yeah, that'd be too far out. Agree.
Okay, well, our first case for,
Pioneers.
Whoa.
okay, in the right direction. So I make a motion to accept the recommendations of the health director. As-
Second. Oh, I'm
as-
sorry.
As stated. I'd
Yep.
like to read,
as written.
with the way they're written.
I'm good with that. I think I should take out alterations and just have
Let's read
expansions.
through that again, because we're really pinning that to that house.
Okay, so conditions are the property is restricted to a maximum of 2 bedrooms. No permits will be approved for alterations or expansions to the dwelling until connection to the municipal sewer has occurred.
Or they become compliant with Title V. Say someone buys that house and says, I want to make it a 6-bedroom house. I've got the setbacks and I've got the cash.
They're in a zone 2, but you're right. What if they were to buy nitrogen aggregation or something? Okay.
I'm just saying, I don't want to devalue the house to the guy that's buying it in any way with the deal that we're cutting to give them a pass.
Okay.
And shouldn't it have something about habitable space?
Expansions to the dwelling or
Increase.
increases.
we ran into that with the last one, I
Yeah.
think we
Yeah,
should,
or an increase in habitable space.
even though you're really saying that, but
We have to
We
spell
got-
it out, yeah.
hold on that one.
Okay, connection to the municipal sewer is required within 45 days of availability. The existing system must be maintained to prevent overflow to the ground. Should the existing system become a public or environmental hazard, it must be remedied immediately. The waiver request shall return to the Board of Health for review in June of 2021 should Phase 3 funding be declined at the 2021 annual town meeting. These conditions must be recorded at the Registry of Deeds to run with the property.
I think that's good.
Okay.
Second? All in
Motion?
favor?
Aye.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Passed?
Congratulations.
I have a problem with overhead lights, and I have to cough to get my eyes open. And she knows, believe me, this is like, I feel like horrible. I think people think,
You look terrific.
well,
A movie,
They're beautiful sunglasses.
your movie star persona.
thank you. Well, it's necessary, because otherwise I can't open my eyes.
Oh,
It's the craziest thing, and it's a disease. Isn't that crazy? Autoimmune.
My heart
Thank you,
goes out to
everyone.
Yeah, thank
Wow,
you.
it's
Appreciate it.
crazy.
thank you.
It's crazy.
Well, I hope this decision makes you feel better.
Now you
It
can go
does.
and have a glass of champagne.
Oh,
I
geez.
didn't sign you in.
Oh.
Do you want to try
You
one
want
of
me
my
to sign it
cheese?
again?
Should we mid? Sure. So we skipped over B of the work session, discussion of sewer connection extension requests. I don't know if you want to make that into a different work session or whatnot.
Let's do a different work session.
So will we excuse?
Yes.
Yes.
Good
Thank you.
evening.
Thank you.
Good night.
I don't want to get a demerit or something. Thank you very much.
Is that all right with everybody if we do
Yep.
that another
I
time?
appreciate that, thank you.
So I can go on to my report then? So we have, extended an offer to fill the part-time inspector position to Mark Pacelli. He was here previously. He worked with Paula for about 5 years in the early 2000s, left for a little while, and then came back for a couple years. And then he left thinking he was gonna retire, but he missed us too much.
Yeah, that's what I'm chuckling about, that last sentence.
He missed us too much. He's still very active with his private Title V inspector business, but he says he's getting too old to dig holes every day. So he wants to help us out doing some food service inspections, reviewing some Title V inspections, some office work. So he's,
So his Title V business isn't gonna conflict with
no,
Title V inspections?
he does not do any inspections in
Oh, okay.
Harwich.
Okay.
I had my 1-year evaluation with the town administrator. I have some goals for the upcoming year, doing some more community outreach programs for the Phase 2 sewer people. I'd like to also get into a Realtor group. They do a monthly or even a weekly group with all the Cape-wide Realtors to talk to them about what our Phase 2 is looking like,
Great,
and
that'd be good.
talking to them about waiver requests and extension requests and all that stuff. We have had a talk with the town administrator about developing some regulations or policies about fertilizer. I know this comes back to you almost every year for the last 10 years, but we really do need to look at some regulations or programs for fertilizer. The towns that we've hooked up with for sewer, for our comprehensive wastewater management plan, Orleans, Brewster, Chatham, they've all adopted some sort of fertilizer regulation. And it checks a box, basically, for our funding requests from the state. And the more boxes checked, the lower rate we get. So, if over the next year, we'll do probably some work sessions separate from a regular session and go over what the other towns have, what parts you like, what parts you don't like, try to make something that's as simple as possible and as least enforcement driven as possible, because we're something we have to have, but we're not going to get any extra staff to do it. So something that we'll talk about as part of my next upcoming year. Still want to put it out there that we have a vacancy, an empty seat at the end of the table. If you know anyone who's interested in becoming a Board of Health member, anyone on television, we're looking for a member.
They should go down to the town administrator to find out about that.
Yes, they should fill out a board vacancy form at the town administrator's office. And the person who someone did apply to be appointed, but this particular person didn't have any public health background, so the interview committee didn't recommend him. So a little bit of public health background would be beneficial.
Is the job description on the web?
There is no job description per se, which makes it difficult as well. Someone with an interest in public health. We're mandated by charter to have a doctor or a medical profession on the board, so we already have one, but another doctor wouldn't hurt. Someone with some septic background or just public health in general would be good.
Didn't I read that the state public health department is interested in creating stronger criteria?
Yes, you did read that. The Boston Public Health Commission, the local commission on public health, is coming up with standards for board members and directors and agents and clerical staff. Everyone will have a certain amount of education or seminar background certificates.
Who is that, Boston Public Health Commission?
No, it's the local commission on public health.
Oh,
Massachusetts Commission on Public Health.
oh.
Yeah.
Didn't know there was such a beast.
Yeah, there is.
No, I worked for the state agency for 29 years.
So board members would be required to take a couple of certificate programs.
As long as it's not a test.
No, I don't think there's a test. I don't
A
think
lot of
there's
their courses are online too, which is good.
Right,
So we're not going out to Worcester like some of the other ones that were
right.
available.
And I'll
recently.
send that over, I'll send that to you all again about what that is.
You can almost guarantee one of the courses will be conflict of interest.
Oh, yes,
Well,
conflict
that-
of interest.
Those
and
are
open
online
meeting.
though, they have a whole
Yeah.
thing on that.
So
I've
we
did
have,
29 times.
we have been very, very busy with the wastewater stuff, as you can tell from this meeting alone. We've talked about wastewater and sewer quite a bit. Our office gets flooded with questions every day, probably, I'd say 10 plus a day, easily, of phone calls, emails, or walk-ins. So we are quite busy with that. I attended a Board of Selectmen meeting last month. They had questions about how far along we've come as a board or you've come as a board to developing policies and regulations, which I think the real estate transfer one will be the first actual regulation that you've passed concerning sewering. But they are looking for more concrete written recommendations from the board for things like, right now the regulations only give 1 year for a connection. Possibly should we be looking at 2, and only professional engineers are allowed to design the connections? Should we be allowing registered sanitarians?
That would be a great a review for a summer intern. I used to have my summer interns do projects like that all the time. They
Too
do a
late.
literature review. No, do a literature review.
I know, but it's
Or
too late.
contact, well, no, but they're saying these additional tools, but contact other states and see what tools they use that we can, it'd be a lot easier for us just trying to develop something off the cuff, right? I mean, maybe
Oh, no, I meant for the summer intern.
Oh, no. I'm saying for next year. But if it's something that the selectmen want, if somebody
They
signs
want
up.
it now.
Right, but, anyway, the thought is that they could do a lit review, and then, right, I used to have my students, if it was more, that it was practice, we would develop a little tool, and the person would interview them by phone. And so it really makes what could sound cumbersome not so bad after all. Just take a couple of weeks, whatever it is we want the person to do, and if they're a public health grad student or an intern somewhere would be perfect. I know, because you guys are short-staffed.
Mm.
So, just a thought.
Okay.
Can I go back to the mosquito?
Yes.
Was anybody they believed bit?
No, so Harwich was the first town to be positive for the Asian tiger mosquito. I got a call from the Cape Cod Mosquito Control Program, and they said, congratulations, we have hatched some Asian tiger mosquitoes. Apparently, you can't tell what kind of mosquito they are from the eggs. They have to actually hatch out. So it took a couple of weeks. But she called and said this particular mosquito is invasive and it can carry all sorts of different diseases like Zika and dengue and Triple E and West Nile. And it's notable because it's not usually found this far north. It's usually found New Jersey and south, more typically in like the Texas area because it's a warm weather mosquito. They probably have all died off because a couple nights ago we had some 30-degree weather at night. We haven't gotten any reports from any Zika or dengue, but West Nile virus is up quite a bit. It's very, very active this year, more so than prior
In this
years.
area?
Massachusetts and Cape Cod particularly.
And all the more difficult because it's often asymptomatic. Completely asymptomatic.
And many times people don't get treated, you know, they have something and they don't know what it is. And then lastly, I wanted to mention two other things. The old Stone Horse Motel came to the community development team for redevelopment project, and they are looking at doing workforce housing there. So they want to tear down the motel parts, keep the main building, and then build 2 dormitory style buildings. It'd be 3 stories, the first story sub floor, and then 3 stories of dorms. So it would house quite a
Wasn't
bit.
it workforce housing that led to the fire there? Remember the wing that they had that burned flat? And I think it was all workforce housing in there at the time.
Oh, didn't realize that.
Informal probably,
Probably.
but
So they're before the board of, the planning board.
So it's the current owners that want to do this?
Current owners, yes. They're the people that own Zudi, the Kennedys.
Oh, because it's been for
Ronald
sale and the
Rudnick.
health center was going to go in there and all kinds of things the last couple of years.
Yes, so this healthcare center moved to across from the harbor,
Yeah.
and sold this property to Zudi, or the Kennedys. And this is what they're proposing. They have a place like this for workforce housing in Chatham that is used by a lot of the seasonal places like Chatham Bars
It's a
Inn.
good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
So it will be coming before you guys for an environmental impact review. It is going to be over 2,000 gallons a day, a new use, so you'll see it at that time. And then last but not least, the employee flu clinic has been set for October 29th. Just wanted to keep you updated and remind everyone to get their flu shots.
I took mine. Yoo-hoo.
If we don't get a flu shot at the hospital, any staff member, they have to wear a mask every time they go into a patient's room.
I like
I was
that.
surprised. I got mine at Fontaine, and then my husband just went over to CVS today, and they gave him a pneumonia booster. I said, I hadn't heard about that. Now, why did Fontaine speak up? I don't think I need it, but
Yeah, I think you're supposed to get it like I don't remember, but there is a booster. I don't know the.
it's just unfortunate, because last year we went and we got a pneumonia, and we had had one the year before. It said no, there doesn't seem to be any communication between CVS and Fontaine or any record keeping, so it's
That's scary.
It is scary. So we ended up getting it 2 years in a row, so I'm not gonna run over and get a booster if I don't need one.
FYI, the new shingles vaccine, Shingrix, is completely out. The
Oh.
manufacturer has been unable to keep up with the demand, and nobody in the area has any. Even though for those who have, it's a 2-shot deal, and they've come due for the 2nd shot, there's nothing there.
Oh, boy.
And that's pretty well true Cape wide, by the way.
Oh.
So don't sign up for the shingles vaccine yet.
Interesting.
Hmm.
We don't have any permits.
We do have one permit, Lola's Local Food Lab. They were at the Cranberry Harvest Festival.
Oh,
And
What is that?
they make spice packets and vinegars,
Huh.
flavored vinegars. They were at the Cranberry Fest
oh, is that fun?
without a permit, so they did
Oh,
get
not
their
that
permit.
But the Cran Fest was really fun.
It was a good time this year. So one thing, can you please approve the permits? Can you vote to approve? the
Oh,
permits,
do I hear
Lola's?
please? Lola's.
Can you
motion to approve the
I'll make a motion that we
permits?
accept the permit for Lola's.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Permit
you.
passed.
Excellent.
Sorry.
So our next meeting is November what? I don't have my book with me.
November 13th. It is the day after Veterans Day. I won't be at that meeting.
Are you going someplace nice?
I am going somewhere very nice and warm for a week.
You deserve it.
So Katie will be running that meeting. There's a chance that Perks will be coming back before you for expansion into the space. So
Sorry.
I'll have a long report for you for that, and I'll
Wow.
meet with you, Pam, beforehand, so you know the
It's
extent
gonna be
of it.
interesting.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Are we finished? Do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
second,
Everybody's in favor?
I'll tell you, they do a good business in the summer on Perks, for the stroll place.
They
is a
all do,
jam.
yeah, they all, the stroll's been great